Good evening, it's Friday night. It's a Friday night football pitch with myself, Cameron McDonald. As always, my co-host Dennis Newell. And for the first time, 22 episodes, we've got two guests tonight. We have Andy Millen, Andy becoming a regular. Good evening, Andy, and Happy New Year to you.
Good evening, Cameron. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Andy.
And,
Happy New Year, Dennis.
we're
Happy
also
Year,
joined by Graeme Duthie, host of several podcasts. Graeme, on you go, I'll let you name them.
Happy Year, guys. The Locker Room podcast. And I've also started my own Hearts podcast, maybe not a Wednesday day the way we're playing just now, but it's called the Gorgie Boys podcast on YouTube. So I've got that as well.
Yeah. No problem. Graeme, a regular guest with us as well now. So let's see how this works with four of us tonight. So good evening, and as I say, Happy New Year to you all. I'm going to start with where we ended off last week. Unfortunately, Andy, your internet phone connection dropped off last week. But as we've been mentioning previously, I was at a game a couple of weeks ago. Clyde visited Spartans. There was quite a serious injury on the park to Paul Watson. Paul obviously suffered what appeared to be quite a serious leg injury. But these things happened obviously in the game. But happened 3 minutes into the second half. And the game didn't kick off again until between 4:45 and 10:05. So he was lying in the park, injured for a good half hour anyway, just to give anybody who didn't catch last week's broadcast or the previous week's just a bit of background on it. So that's where we are just now. Thing is, I didn't think it was right, and I questioned last week the medical facilities that Spartan have. Now, to put you guys in the picture before we go any further with this, I spoke to the SFA today, to their wellbeing department. And the chat for the wellbeing department is either going to get back to me with what the minimum requirements are for medical at the park, or he's going to put me in touch with somebody who is aware of the medical requirements, the minimum requirements for games. So, Dennis, first of all, obviously, we know the situation with Paul Watson. It was a horrific injury. But your thoughts on the fact there didn't appear to be a doctor last week or 2 weeks ago, and indeed the fact that the SFA aren't 100% sure on exactly what the minimum requirements are?
Well, again, I'll go back to it because we can be overkilling this. But at the same time, there is a concern that basically if there's no requirement, then you've got a problem, because in health and safety, looking after people, it's important. I mean, we all have it at our workplace. You know, I mean, yeah. We're really heavy on it in our company, which is right. You know, we have safety features all put in place, and it should be no different in the football park, if not even more, because you know the way you're physically making tackles, it's going to happen. Maybe not as much as when Andy and I were kicking a ball, but the bottom line is, it's certainly a physical sport still, and as you rightly say, there was a bad injury. The point I was making before is, and we still couldn't get clearance on it between Andy and I last week when we touched on it, was the times that I've been at senior clubs, I was led to believe that you had to have a doctor and call, or one very close that you could get them within. You could be sitting in house 100 yards from the stadium or something like that you could get. That was my belief.
Yeah.
And when I was managing, I got that impression as well. Maybe not so much when you get to the lower clubs, but in senior football, my belief was that you had to have a doctor, either a club doctor, who was there, and you've also, I think, got to register a club doctor, and there should be somebody that can be there at short notice. Now, yeah. Again, it's not something I've ever delved into to get clarity in that, because it was a hearsay, and I've never came across an injury like what you're talking about that had that requirement. But it's well worth picking up on, Cammy, I think, because health and safety now we're not being dinosaurs about it in any way by saying, oh, everybody's got health and safety. It's something that should be taken just as a natural, like pulling on a football strip.
Yeah. Andy, you've obviously been at several clubs. And as I say, I think you and I mentioned last week, we were fortunate enough at Clyde to have Stuart Hillis, the Scotland doctor, I think, at one time, you know, who was always there on match days. I'm still astonished that there doesn't appear to be a necessity for a club doctor to be at a ground on a match day.
I'm led to believe, Cammy, that if you're in the Premier League, I think every club has got to have a registered doctor, even on the bench in the Scottish Premier League.
Mm-hmm.
But once you drip feed out the Premier League, then I think things start to change. Now, I don't know what the pros and cons are. I do know that the club I work at is Morton. Normally, we've got 2 doctors at our home game. One doctor will be in beside the crowd, and the other doctor will be on the bench. But I'm sure a lot of the time, I know at Morton Football Club, most games, and I say most games, last week when we played Ayr United, we never had one, but most games they've got at least one when we go away from home. But if you don't have that, normally the home team supply the doctor. But what I would say for that is each club has got a duty of care to their employees on a Saturday. And what I mean by that is whether Morton are going to play Hearts, Celtic, Albion Rovers, it makes no difference. Morton Football Club or that football club who's in the professional league should each have a doctor with them, because they've got a duty of care to their own squad of players. And I find it staggering in 2025 that there isn't a ruling. But what will come down to, Cammy, is, and I don't know how much doctors get paid or whatever, but some will be doing it. I'm sure the Morton 2 doctors do. I do know that. They're doing it for nothing. They're doing it as a gratie. But you've got other clubs, understandably, or the doctors will want paid. But there should be a ruling from the SFA and the Scottish Football League to supply. Each team should have their own doctor, because if it's Scotland who are going away in international duty, they'll not have one doctor. They'll probably have 2 doctors.
They'll have at least 2. Yeah, that's it.
You get Celtic Rangers, they'll all have their doctors. And I'm not talking about a full-time doctor being in as a full-time club, which some bigger clubs, they all have down in England. I'm just talking about on a Saturday. There's your duty of care to your group of players that are your employees. And I found that staggering when you told me that there wasn't even a doctor there. I mean, honestly, I was shocked with that. Absolutely shocked.
Yeah, I mean, I'm making the assumption there wasn't a doctor there, because I'm quite sure a doctor would have been able to treat that injury or made a decision on what to do with Paul Watson on the day. But the only thing, Graeme, I could find when I looked up the minimum requirements, and you know what it's like on the internet, is actually an advert 5 years ago for either Arbroath or Brechin, I think it was, who were looking for a new club doctor. That was 5 years ago. It's the only thing I could find on the internet when I searched for minimum requirements today. I think it's absolutely staggering that there doesn't appear that necessity on match days.
Well, I'll tell you a little story. So my laddie, who's now 12, playing for a team. Obviously, at the time he was 10-year-old. He's not playing for them now, but he was playing for a team, and they went train him. There's about 15 of them, 2 coaches. Not one of the coaches had a first aid kit. And ironically, what happened? One of the young players went down with an injury. His leg was really sore, and they had nothing to put on it because there was nobody there with a first aid kit. They had to phone somebody. else who put him in a driveway to bring an ice pack because they had no first aid kit. It was like, that's not right. There should be something there, especially for young laddies, that need to have some kind of first aid if this kind of thing happens. And of course, they didn't have it when they got injured. It's a joke. It shouldn't happen.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's as I say that. Sorry, Dennis, on you go.
No, I have, when I recall it in a bit more depth, that I've seen a player getting injured, but the doctor for the opposite team has come along, and maybe like the home team. And I'm thinking more in Albion Rovers and that. And I think what's happened is maybe Albion Rovers that particular day, the doctor couldn't make it, but probably they checked before they got there that, say it was Arbroath we were playing, they would have a doctor. And I know in an instance that it's been the opposite team doctor that's actually treated someone. That's
what I'm saying, Cammy. I think that's what a lot of teams do. But what I'm saying is, I know Graeme's talking about your younger kids, but if you're talking about your Scottish football professional league, which Scottish Premier League, Championship, League 1, League 2, there should be accountable.
Yeah.
But even Andy, if you've got organised football, like Graeme's talking about there, it doesn't matter what level it's at, there should be some form of treatment or first aid. You need first aid. If you're going to be stipulating right through the whole country, you need these coaching certificates. And then that's got to work hand in hand with it. Now, that's maybe something they should do on the back of that. That if you're going to be coaching a team, you should be taking that first aid kit test as well.
Yeah.
I don't know, Dennis, that I would think, I might be wrong here, but I would think the SFA would stipulate that there's got to be a certain amount of people in a youth team. Just say we're talking, say, the amateur teams, like Graeme's got maybe say for under 10s, under 18s. They've got to have first aid certificates. I would think.
Well, again, we're back to making assumptions.
Safety again.
Be right, that should be wrong.
Yeah. Well, as I say, hopefully I get.
Sorry, Cammy, but you said it. That's a professional team in League Two, Spartans. No, just Spartans, but the opposition team. And if there wasn't a doctor there, that's poor.
Yeah.
Really poor.
Again, it is a bit of ifs and buts, you know. So hopefully once we get some clarity, I know this has ran for a couple of weeks now on the show, but hopefully once we get clarification during the week for either the SFA or the SPFL, then we can put this to bed, you know. And I'm quite sure Spartans that day would have met the minimum requirements. I'd just like to see if we can get clarification of what the minimum requirements are. But as I say, that's just say, Dennis, we spent enough time on this. It's about time really to put this to bed and concentrate maybe on football. And Andy, I know last week you'd mentioned, before we move on to the games, possibly a kind of bit of league reconstruction, and it's something it's not reared its head for quite some time. But
it will
again,
it will
no,
because the SPA, the top league will never get bigger because the cake's too big. At the moment, there's 12 teams. Ideally, it could be 16 or 18 team league, but the TV dictate as well that there's 4 Old Firm games, and that's where the money comes.
Yeah.
To play each other just home and away. But what I would also advocate, and I said that the last time, Cammy, I don't see any reason why you couldn't amalgamate League Championship, League 1, League 2, and if we need another 2 teams to come up for the lower league or whatever, make it, I don't know whether you make it a 16-team league, you make it an 18-team league, because years ago that's what it used to be. It just used to be the Premier League used to be a league of 10, and then you had the old first division and old second division. That's all you had. That's all you had. So you
I remember.
League construction in the Premier League for me, I'll not see it. That's for sure. And I'm 59.
No.
I'll not see it.
No. I think
Andy.
Pardon?
Not much chance of me seeing it then.
Right, you pair of dinosaurs.
Graeme,
I was going to say, let's switch you out the young man. Graeme, you looked as if you had something to say on that. You know, that you looked very much as if you get some thoughts on reconstructing our leagues, you know, and what it would do to benefit our game.
I have said this on our podcast numerous times. I've bored folk to tears with this. This should have happened in 2020 when COVID hit. Now, they had the chance to do it then. They relegated Hearts. They relegated Partick. Partick actually came off worse because they had 9 games left and got relegated in hand. Now, Hearts were terrible that season. I've got no bones with that at all. We were terrible. But we still had 8 games to go. We had a chance to stay up. Now, that's what they should have done. Neil Doncaster should have said, you know what? This is unprecedented and it's not happened before. We're going to reconstruct the league. There'll be no relegation, 18-team league. But instead, what he did was let teams vote, and every team voted for their own self-entitlement, which was wrong for me. I thought it was horrendous at the time, but that is the time it should have happened. 2020. It was unprecedented. And I've said this for so long. They won't do league reconstruction because they want the 4 Rangers Celtic games. That's the reason why they won't do it. But for me, it does get boring when you're playing the same teams 4 times a season, potentially 5 or 6 of its cup competitions. It does get stale. It gets really boring. I've spoken about this so many times. Reconstruction should have happened. I would love to see it, but Neil Doncaster blew it when he let every team vote and they voted for their own self-entitlement.
Yeah. And that's the problem, Dennis. You're not going to get turkeys voting for Christmas.
Well, I don't know how to answer that one. But what I would say is the reconstruction it's got to be a good idea for freshening things up. It's stale. We're all agreeing on that. That's 100%. They've done it with the Champions League and Europa League. It's a breath of fresh air up to now. Whether it continues in that vein and they can step up and improve it, I think it's great. It's certainly improved my enthusiasm for the Europa League even because of the format. Now, we don't need to be saying, well, we'll set the leagues up and we'll run with them to next 20 years. You can change these things. You know, it's a bit like I've always said my rant, and you know that, Andy, as well as Cammy, about summer football. There's no reason on this planet why we shouldn't be at least trying it. And that's my point with changing league construction. You know, you look at the 3 divisions we've got, there's 30 teams in there. Is that a lion at the back of you, Graeme?
Oh, it's my cat.
All right, I thought you were in Edinburgh Zoo there for a minute. So the thing is that if you really take it and you could bring a couple of teams back, because we've lost a lot of teams from the old division, lower division. I mean, we've lost nearly half a league, maybe more, with the Berwick's, Cowdenbeath, Albion Rovers, East Stirling. Right, so these teams in that division maybe could merit filling it up to have a split that we only have 2 divisions instead of 3 below the Premier League. And it gives them still that priority to go and have the top flight as it is, if they're hell-bent on not changing that. Because everybody's in agreement here. They're only doing it because of the television with Celtic and Rangers. And I know what you're saying, Graeme, because there's nothing in my mind that would encourage me to be watching Ross County and St Johnstone on a regular basis. You know, and that's not being disrespectful to them, but I just don't find it. When there's other games around, I would be taking as much time as I would with maybe even looking at the lower divisions. Because I'll tell you what, if you look at our divisions as we will, you'll find that some of them are really tight. I think it'd be even better if we just had the 2 divisions below the Premiership.
Well,
but Dennis, you're saying you...
Sorry, Cammy.
Sorry, on you go, Andy.
No,
I'll come back.
I'm just saying, Cammy, I've said that. I think that would be a breath of fresh air. Understand Graeme saying about the bigger league. As I say, I don't ever see that happening.
No.
I mean, as I say, I've told you the story that I came out of St Millen in 2010, but at that stage they were trying to get it back down to a League of 10. That's what they were wanting. That's what the bigger teams were wanting, them back down to a League of 10, because the cake, you can't make the cake get any bigger.
No, it's money though, Andy.
It's not about football. It's about finance, and they don't want it. But if that team, like what happened last season, Livingston came down. Livingston are going to try and get that bounce to go back up right away. If they don't get it, the same thing could happen to them as what happened to a Hibs or Dundee United, where they could get stuck in that league for the next 3, 4, 5 seasons.
The problem is that you're allowing the Premier League teams to vote. And one of them's going to be daft enough to say, yeah, we'll have reconstruction and they're sitting in the major goldfish bowl. They're not going to vote against themselves.
Well,
that's the problem you've got.
As long as there's 11-1, the vote goes through. You only have to look at the AstroTurf pitches. Now, an AstroTurf pitches in your top league, for me, shouldn't be allowed.
No.
I mean, I worked at Kilmarnock, great club, but when you see that, it comes on, you go to a time castle, beautiful grass pitch, lovely stadium, and then the cameras go to Rugby Park. The park's done. It's shiny. It's done. It should be if you're going to promote that and say that your AstroTurf pitches are going to be played in the Premier League, then it should be changed every 2 to 3 years.
Andy, you couldn't give me a free ticket to go to Rugby Park, because I've yet to see a good game of football on an artificial surface. And there's another guy who said this a while ago, and always Brendan Rodgers. And I just can't take to it. I never have. And I'm going back to the days when Alex Smith was at Clyde. We used to share the training ground. And to be honest, even then, Alex Smith was a big fan of it because he more or less was there right at the start and he had a lot of youngsters brought through. So he maybe found it really good. For me, if you're dipping your toe into it every couple of weeks, like going to Kilmarnock and playing, no. If you just convert everybody to artificial surface, then it's a level playing field. But the bottom line is that is not fit for the game that we now are as we know it. It's bad enough that we've lost all physical contact, or most of it. Now we're going down to a game that is alien to me, maybe because I'm older, but I just don't find that there's the same entertainment value on it.
But again, Dennis, it's all down to money. It's all how many times did you and I sit in a studio in Cumbernauld and listen to a guy talk about Alloa does this and Alloa does that, and Alloa's got so much use out of this plastic pitch that they've got at Recreation Park at the time, whatever the hell it's called now. And that's what it is. It's all about money. It's all about getting 24 hour a day usage out of a park, you know.
But what's the game about? But the game is about entertainment. And this is where you've got to divide in line. You can't have both with the fact of your artificial surface. You've got to find another way that you cut your cloth accordingly. That I would believe that even the Championship, Andy, the Premiership and the Championship, because one overlaps the other, getting promotion up and down, the Championship and the Premiership should not have any artificial surfaces. The rest of the clubs are allowed it. And the reason I say allowed it is simply because they have to use that as a financial support by letting it out, because they don't get the same injection with television, etc., being passed down to them. So for the two top leagues, I think there should be a stipulation that it's real grass, nothing else. And the rest can then decide what they want to do.
But Graeme, if we get to a stage there where financially we broaden out the possibility of getting into the top league and the possibility of playing a Rangers and Celtic at least once a season at your home grounds, you know, and getting that financial injection, that takes away the need for a lot of these smaller clubs to have the plastic parks, because they're going to have money coming in through being in that top league.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not a fan of plastic pitches in the top league either. And there's another couple of things as well. And sorry to bring this up, but I also think if you're an outsider watching Scottish football and you turn on to say, for example, St Johnstone against Celtic, and you see most of the ground is Celtic fans and very rarely St Johnstone fans, that doesn't look a good product to me, where the away fans are outnumbering the home fans. And also, you're looking at our biggest game in Scotland, Celtic Rangers, and there's no away fans at them. I've always said the Glasgow derby is a massive, massive derby. No issue with that at all. But it is completely downgraded by the fact there are no away fans there. I've said this before. I would hate if Hearts and Hibs did that. If Dundee did that. You look at the game yesterday, Dundee United derby. Great derby, away fans celebrating. I honestly think the fact that the top two can't get their heads together, and I know they'll say, oh, it was Rangers' fault, this and that. They need to get around the table and go, we need to get fans back in there. Because when that game has the home fans at it, I don't think that's a good look either.
But see what you're saying, 100%. But there's one set of people that could change that. The people that run the Scottish football. So your Rangers, Celtic do run Scottish football, understand that. But the people at the high end, whether the Scottish Football League or the SFA, should stipulate there's got to be X amount of fans, whether that be 8,000 or that Celtic get the away end, vice versa. When Rangers go to Parkhead, the people who are running Scottish football, no the football teams, the people in charge should be stipulating. They should be putting in and saying, by the way, this is not good enough for your game. Like yesterday, you watched the game, it's 55,000 Rangers fans. It's not the same. You go to your own team, Graeme. There's nothing better, and I was fortunate enough to do that. Played for Hibs against Hearts. Unbelievable atmosphere. Out with Celtic and Rangers. It's for me the best part. It's brilliant, great atmosphere, and there's nothing better than coming out and seeing that end behind the goal full of, i.e., an away team, and then the three sides are full of Hearts fans. Yeah. That's what the game's about, and it's about the passion that both sets of fans have. Forget religion, just in terms of the passion and the atmosphere it gives it. Yesterday, you get Celtic playing. There's no atmosphere for Celtic at all. They've got to generate what they can themselves. Vice versa, Rangers have got it, and it goes to Parkhead. I don't think it looks good for our game. When you switch on, as you say, Graeme, it's not right. It's not right.
Well, on another note relating to that, because and we'll stay away from the bigotry point, but the sort of a crowd violence that we get, that dictates it as well, and that needs sorted out. But I just look back there. I was trying to think what game it was, and I think we've got a major problem in relation to who actually is controlling the crowd. Because I took a note of it. It was actually St Mirren against Rangers. It wasn't that long ago. It was only the 26th of December. And I counted in the corner between 15 and 20 policemen standing in the corner, getting a first-hand view. Same at Ross County with one of the other games. They're watching the game. The stewards are the guys that are looking into the crowd, and I'm thinking, well, you're not really going to do anything anyway, because you're meant to really only be taking people at their seat, as far as I'm aware. You're not going to, if you're a lunatic, you're going to get in and try and split up a fight. But the police are all standing there in the corner. And I'm thinking, what's going on? They're probably getting double time for it. They should be around the edge of the park, and they should be looking into the crowd. And that would make anything a bit deterrent, because you'd be able to identify them right away. Instead of that, they're getting a free view of the game. They're sitting there waiting on the actual thing exploding. Then they'll dive in. Too late. But who's allowing that to happen? I'm really seriously looking at this and going, I can't believe there's so many of you standing in that corner watching the match.
Yeah.
So the whole structure of Scottish football, Andy, and we could sit here to this time next year and never get anybody to use common sense within the SFA or even the leagues, because they're alien to what's a normal thing for them. We can all sit here as, I think, normal human beings and put things, suggestions and everything. They should be put under the carpet. And that's going back to right at the beginning when we talked about healthcare for a footballer. It's just a nonsense that these things are not highlighted. You know, and it doesn't matter what level you're at. Graeme's son playing, that's absolutely well. But these people are bulletproof. And that's the problem. And they're not willing to listen either. We just have Muppets in there. Honestly, we do.
Because again, it's self-interest. It's self-interest for what you're doing at your own football club. It's self-interest for how many tickets you can get, how many freebies you can get, you know, how many big fancy dinners or tables you can sit at. And as Dennis and Andy both say, Graeme, the game's suffering because of it.
It is, but I think there's a lot of other things that are suffering as well. And I don't want to go down the VAR route, but that doesn't help either. I had a couple of mates that were at the Ross County game against Hearts last week, and they said that VAR was brutal. They took about 10 minutes to make a decision, and it just adds on to there's a lot of things that are wrong with Scottish football. And I think, you know, some of the standards is actually all right. There's been some decent games this season, but I just think at times when you're like, I tried to get tickets for the Hearts game yesterday. I went online to try and get tickets, me and my laddie, 2 seats together. It said it was full. I then watched the game and there's plenty of empty seats. So it's like, well, but that's not full. Yeah, I couldn't get a ticket. There's a lot of things wrong with Scottish football just now. And I think somebody said the word Muppet, said that they're in charge. I completely agree. I just think they're hopeless. And it doesn't help. Like when VAR came in, it didn't help. When Ian Maxwell, your own Scottish Football Association guy, said it'll be terrible for a few months. What good's that? I mean, if you're coming to say that, what's the point in that? You need to be talking it up, and you're talking it down, saying it won't be very good. Well, why are you bringing it in then? Honestly,
but as recent as Graeme, as recent as a couple of weeks, he says it'll balance itself out. But that's why VAR's there, to not balance it out. It's there for 100% precision, right? Mm-hmm. That's what referees used to do. And Maxie, you know, I've met him a couple of times, Andy, but he's just another puppet that's in there. You know, and the thing is, he's saying it'll balance out. I'm sitting looking at him in the news going, are you having a laugh? That's why VAR and the extra expense of going into the Scottish game is used.
Maybe we need to rename this podcast Muppets and Puppets. You know what I mean? That's
the one thing that maybe we're all forgetting, but the clubs don't. They've got to pay for it, and they pay handsomely for it.
Yeah.
So the product that they're paying for will be up to the standard it should be. I mean, for anybody who's working, if you go and start a new job and you say to your boss, it'll maybe take me about 5 to 6 months to get my job going, you'll be back out the door again as quick as you come in. You don't got that time.
Unless you're a footballer at Ibrox.
When VAR came in,
football manager at Ibrox.
Sorry, Graeme.
Graeme.
When VAR came in, the fans were not asked what they thought about it. They just went, we're bringing it in halfway through a season. The fans were never asked about that. That's something that the fans should have a say in, because it affects the fans as well. Like, they're paying money to go and watch a game that's lasting about 3 hours now. It's like American football now, because it lasts that long with VAR decisions. But again, the fans are the last to find out and the last to get talked about. It's brutal.
Yeah, but
Graeme, what do fans make of football? You know, let's be honest. That they're shot on for a great height on a regular basis. They're forgotten about, as you say. fans are nothing. They're no longer the lifeblood of clubs because they're more interested in what they can get for TV. You know, so whilst I agree with your sentiments 100%, the rest of the guys do not even interested in what the fans are thinking.
I had this years ago, and I've had it firsthand, and you might as well, Andy. We had a game off when I was at East Stirling, and the guy that was the main man there, I don't know who it was. It was the secretary anyway, but he sort of run this club the way he wanted it, and a game was cancelled, and he couldn't get the game on quick enough, right? And it was fired in then for a Tuesday, and I said to him, look, it's probably because he wanted to keep the pies over. So I said to him, you're not giving the supporters much of a chance or time to get their work sorted out or go there. And he went, they don't count. Just forget about them. Just go on, away you go to the training and don't worry about them. And I thought, what a stinking attitude. And that stuck in my throat for that day to this day. And I'm thinking that's what clubs are like. It's again, we'll go back to the boy that was injured. Would you not have some conscience if you were a director at a football club and you're sitting in the bus going to Spartans as an example and say, oh, by the way, have we got a doctor today? Nah, it doesn't matter.
Aye. Yeah.
That's what it boils down to, isn't it? It's people with their self-interest that is unbelievable in this world. It's got worse now, I think, Andy, as the years have went on.
As I say, I've said this before. When I started playing in 1983, I was at St Johnstone. Jeff Brown wasn't in there at the time, but you wouldn't even known who the chairman was. I've no doubt at heart. You had one person who run the club. The biggest issue you've got at a lot of clubs now is there's so many different fractions that are running clubs, and then in beside that you've got so many egotistic people. So the game,
and that's the problem.
I go back years ago, Graeme. The guy called, I didn't know him, but the guy called Wallace Mercer. He ran Hearts Football Club. Love him or loathe him, I don't know him, but you dealt with one guy. What's happening now? There's the likes of your own club because you support a run. I don't think there's one individual person who actually runs Hearts, is there? Is it one?
No,
is there,
we've got,
you know what I mean?
Got the foundation of Hearts. We've got a load of folk in the back room, but I generally don't want to know who the chairman or who all that kind of stuff is. All I want to know is who's playing every week.
Yeah.
Is the manager making the right decisions on the park? I don't care about the rest of the stuff. It seems to me that a lot of what like Ann Budge and that I care about is like we've got this brand new spanking fancy hotel. I've never been in it yet. You know, I don't care about that. All I care about is what's on the park. Right now, it's not very good. But that's all I care about. I don't want to know anything else in the background. I just want to know what's happening on a Saturday or a Wednesday. That's all I care about.
Unfortunately, Graeme, you're the supporter. That's you. You see, if you go underneath the cover that you like, you go underneath and put your head above that, you'll get a fright. And that's the same at a lot of clubs. A lot of clubs where these egotistic people just have the flurry and they love all that. Whereas years ago it used to be only one person, so the managers could go and speak to him or her, and they would say aye or nay. No,
I mean, I don't know. I don't know when this came in, but director of football, I couldn't tell you what they do. Like we had Craig Levine as director of football, and I could not tell you a thing that he did. I genuinely don't know what they do, and I don't really want to know.
What Sam does, Graeme, it's a thing that came from the continent, and it's a buzzword, and everybody jumps on the bandwagon and say we need that. No, if you're a top club, I can understand that the manager might need somebody to go and do a lot of work for him, right? But at clubs, I don't think, I might be wrong, I might be a wee bit obsolete now, but your Hibs, Hearts, United, St Mirren, they've all got them.
Yeah.
They've all got them. And by the way, there's clubs in the Championship that have got them.
It's a buzzword, Andy. It's almost like following a trend.
But what
they are for me is they're glorified scouts.
But you'll get people in the Championship that have even got them, Dennis.
Right, but it's a buzz. It's the title that makes it look good. Before, people used to go to sales reps. Now they're sales managers.
But what I'm saying is it's another 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, £100,000 on your budget.
Yes.
Yeah.
But what for a manager who's going to get up off his backside, get in his car and go and start doing his mileage and go and see players and go and see teams? That's what managers of, I'm sounding like a dinosaur, Alec Ferguson, Jim McLean, that's what the managers used to have to do. Get in your motor and go and look.
That's
They
right.
sit at a computer
I
and they're lazy.
might talk
This is
to
another
Kerno and
point.
Billy Reid.
Yeah, but this is another
The
point.
times they were going up and down the countries.
No?
Yeah, but this is another point that I was going to bring up. We need to watch our time because we're still to go through the results in football. But it's maybe for another night, and that is the scourge of Scottish football, which is agents. You mentioned it there, and I'll totally agree. I had this conversation today with a couple of my colleagues. Days, and Andy, you'll be able to tell me because it's up to date. We get agents who are only interested in one thing, and that's making money. And the product that they're producing to football clubs is embarrassing. They will offload anything if they think they're getting a buck. They're like Barrow Boys, to the point that they're selling players to clubs, looking at getting their cut, and if they don't match it, they'll punt them to somebody else. There should be a law against it because it's almost fraudulent to the point that you're buying damaged goods with half of these players. Rangers have bought a whole load of them in. Celtic have brought a lot in as well. They don't make it and they don't fit what the bill is. If you're going to say Morton, right, that agent should be giving you a player that's suitable for Morton. We're having discussions with the club and what you're looking for. Doesn't matter. And you go, I've got a few bob off of that. And it doesn't come back to haunt them. And that's my problem. Rangers have got this load of players that have been brought in and the agents are got a back pocket full of money, and the bottom line is no matter what way you tart it up, the manager's got to make the best with a bad load of players. And the result is it's the same at Hearts as well.
And that's where the manager's not picking his own players.
That's
the thing.
I'm just going to say there that some clubs, I don't know where, maybe it's some clubs, agents are bringing the players in. The director of football is bringing the players and allegedly putting them in front of the manager. The manager says, "Nah, that's okay. That might not happen at certain clubs."
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
how does that?
As much as the manager is getting, if you want to say, the grief for bringing Joe Bloggs in, it might not be him that's bringing them in.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's the problem I see.
And no, but what happens is that individual is sitting covered with the manager because the only person who's going to get stick and the only person who's going to get grief from
the manager
fans and the only person who's going to get sacked 9 times out of 10 will be the manager.
Yeah, that's it.
And agents
and how does
toddling along the road.
Agents are mint it. That's it. How does that measure up with what's happening at your? Sorry, on you go.
No, I was just going to say,
no.
But if you start going down the way, agents might come in, but agents will not come near you because certain clubs will not pay agent fees. So right away, agents will not come near the clubs.
Mm-hmm. And that's the clubs that are profiting. But I was going to say, Graeme, how does that measure up with what's happening at your club now in terms of the analytics and things like that? You know, are you looking at your own scouting? Is Hearts looking at their own scouting in terms of bringing in players, or are they heavily involved still with agents and with the analytics?
I mean, we've signed a couple of players. We brought in Elton Kabangu and we brought in Jamie McCart today, the ex-St Johnstone player.
Yep.
Now, analytics, I don't know whether that's actually signing. I don't know. But I think they are certainly looking at analytics and they're looking to bring in another few players anyway. But, I mean, we had Vladimir Romanov for ages. Didn't need agents. Just got Romanov to go and fly them all over from Lithuania. It was easy. I miss those days. They were fun. But, yeah, I mean...
I'll tell you what, though. Some of them are better than the players you've got now.
I mean, to be honest, I'm 45. I'm better than half of them. I know that's no hard. But
I know, but I'm talking about Romanov's period. There was some good players in that Hearts team that was brought in.
There was a story when George Burley was there. There was a story they brought in a guy called Ibrahim Tal, and Burley didn't think he was good enough. He said, "Nah, he's not for me." And a couple of days later, he'd signed a 3-year deal. Was in Burley's squad, and he was like, "Nah, no for me. I'm not doing this anymore." But yeah, I mean, I think the analytics are a good thing. I just want to know, like I said, I want to know who's signing the players. Is it Critchley? Is it analytics? That's something we don't know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, do we want to go on to...
Is it time to move on? Will we talk football?
Well, yeah, I think we better go back. Let's leave the English... Well, we could touch on the English Premiership because it's relevant, because next week we'll have Man United and Tottenham covered. I'll speak to you about that later, Cammy. But if we look at where we're stacked up in relation to the English Premiership and just look at a couple of teams, Andy, do you watch as much as you used to watching the English games, or have you sort of gave up the ghost?
I've gave up with my team. It used to be Man United.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Even during the week, tell me. I saw the first goal they lost against Newcastle, and that was it. Switched it off.
Graeme, do you watch too much?
I used to, as I say, sit on the edge of my seat in the 90s and the 2000s with Ferguson. That you couldn't pay me to go down there and watch that.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's
and
exactly.
By the way, you come back and say, Morton, I understand that you can give me grief and give me stick, but they're meant to be the best at the top of the tree, getting paid £300,000, £400,000 a week, and wow, that guy's got a really, really, really difficult job. A really difficult job.
Yeah. Graeme, do you get watching it?
Well, as someone that follows Liverpool, I'm enjoying slot ball. I'm hoping for another spectacular victory of Man United on Sunday.
Yeah,
I think you'll get that. I don't think that'll be difficult, Graeme.
The only thing is, there's a lot of us to talk about Salah, Van Dijk, and Trent Alexander-Arnold's contract. It looks like Trent's probably going to go. I mean, I just wish Liverpool would sort this out, because we can't really afford to lose any of them, to be honest, the way they're playing.
Yeah,
this is the thing. Yeah.
The thing is, Graeme, it's a two-way sword. If Real Madrid, Alexander, and just say give him 50 million, for them to buy or get a player of that ilk, that would cost them, I'm just going to say 50, 60, 70 million. But even for Liverpool to replace that, it's going to cost them millions as well. So I don't know. I don't know. Obviously, Liverpool have got a set wage or a set way of working. I don't know. But to lose that, because he is a major player for them, and so is Van Dijk, and obviously Salah, even though they're older, he's certainly producing the goods at the moment. Salah, top player.
Yeah, well, they're the team that's in form and they're worth watching. You know, if you look at some of the other games, and just running through a couple, Ipswich beating Chelsea on Monday. Who would have thought that? 2-0 to Ipswich, which is...
At the moment, this drug deal, not so much drug deal, but a player that failed the drug test at Chelsea, they've gone right off the boil since that happened.
Yeah.
You know, you just wonder what else is happening in that dressing room. I'm wondering.
Maybe there was fumes coming off him as he sat on the bench. I'll not say any further than that, because you get yourself into trouble. Anyway, Aston Villa drawing with Brighton. I don't know whether Aston Villa's maybe slipped a little bit, but Brighton are still going strong. Yeah,
both these clubs are struggling just now.
Yeah, and Man City, obviously, as we've just mentioned, talked about going down 2-0 to Newcastle.
Man United went down 2-0 to Newcastle, Dennis.
What did I say?
He says Man City there.
Look, it's just because they're the next result that actually won against Leicester. They won on Sunday against Leicester 2-0 away from home, which was well needed, I think, in relation to that, because where they're looking at in the league position is not healthy for them. Yeah. Crystal Palace beat Southampton. Everton get beat with Notts Forest. Fulham drew with Bournemouth 2 each. Tottenham, another strange team, 2 each against Wolves. And West Ham turned over big time with Liverpool 5-0. I just don't know where the big boys' consistency is coming from when you look at Tottenham, Man United, Man City. Are we going to find the second half of the season is going to turn this round and we're going to have an exciting run-in?
I think with Tottenham, I think it's off the cock of the fact that he's very stubborn. He won't change the way he plays. We saw what he did. Well, I think they were down to 9 men against Chelsea a while ago and played the high line, and they could have got hammered. He just won't change. I like the fact that Manager's got a philosophy, but there are times you have to change it, and especially in the Premier, you have to change it, and he won't do that.
No, he said a lot of media coming on his case and basically trying to give him advice rather than this is what you must do. But he'll fall on his sword in relation to that, and it'll not be that far away, because we've had Tottenham people on, and we're going to have more on, and we'll get their opinion firsthand. That it worked in Scotland quite easily, and we've said this before, simply because Celtic were always in the front foot, and there was no way on this planet they needed to go back. So therefore, it was an easy fix, right? They go down there to the English Premier League. Imagine trying to do that against Liverpool, and it's never going to work.
So Graeme, what happens first? Celtic win the SPL or Liverpool win the English Premier League?
See, I don't want to put myself in that because I'm going to look really stupid if we don't win it. I'm going to be easy and say Celtic win the league because I think that's definitely going to happen.
But every club in England is virtually conspiring to hand the league title to Liverpool as early as possible. There's Chelsea went in a bad run. Arsenal have lost games. Man City have lost games. I mean, their closest challenger just now is Nottingham Forest. Which is crazy.
Obviously, Liverpool have been the most consistent team since the start of the season. That's the biggest thing for Liverpool. They keep drawing out results. They lost the one game. I think they lost one, didn't they? They lost the Nottingham Forest,
ironically.
And then they're just completely kicked on.
Yeah. And Slot's done a tremendous job.
And what you would say is the Liverpool team of just now probably isn't as what you say heavy rock is what the previous manager was. Mm-hmm. Whereas this manager's a wee bit more tighter.
I think it's
whereas Klopp was really, really on the front foot, forward thinking all the time. But he's done a great job.
I think it's when you look at what he's done to guys like Ryan Gravenberch. Like Gravenberch wasn't getting game time. He's now a number 6 and he's been outstanding. Cody Gakpo's been brilliant. Mo Salah just typically consistent. He's got a consistent side. I think there are still issues. For me, I've said this previously and I make no bones about it. I don't think Darwin Núñez is good enough for Liverpool. I never have. He's far too inconsistent. But apart from that, it's been very impressive so far.
But what he's done, the new manager coming in there, Graeme, is some boys that maybe weren't getting a lot of game time underneath Klopp. He's maybe come in and again, manager coming in a new lease of life to the players and says, look, you're going to get an opportunity here. And some of them have taken that because you won the regulars last season. And some of the boys now are reaping the benefit of another manager believing in them and trusting them, which that's what a player looked for.
I mean, I think clearly the biggest fault of Man City, I don't think anybody saw this fault coming. They have been so bad this season.
I think maybe what's happened with that group of players as well, Graeme, they've run the cycle now.
And this is we're going to watch Liverpool, because the 3 you're talking about moving, that's Liverpool cycle done as well. Because if they end up moving, the whole it upsets the whole apple cart. And I think that would be the worry if I was a Liverpool supporter, Graeme, like yourself, that if they end up moving, which money talks, so it'll not be a matter of if, it'll be a matter of when. And in my eyes, he needs to really try and readjust that as the season goes on. And if he feels the season's been wrapped up early doors, is to try and get people in that can maybe plug the gaps for the start of next season without going to get big signings in. So it'll be interesting to watch how Liverpool go. If I'm a Liverpool supporter, I'd be thoroughly enjoying it because it's due and they're a team, in my mind, it's always been worthy of being champions in the English Premiership.
Yeah, most definitely. But that's England done. Let's move on to Scotland, Dennis.
Right, okay. Well, obviously the one talking point, I'm sure we're all going to have something on it, is the Thursday's game, Rangers 3, Celtic 0. Now, the one person or people that will be delighted about that result, bookmakers. Who in this planet would have put 5 pence on Rangers to win 3-0? Maybe that cat behind you who's now gone might have been a betting cat. He would have certainly put... Nobody, Graeme, on this planet would have put anything like that on for Rangers to win 3-0. You need to be insane.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, 3-0 flat of Celtic.
Oh, without a doubt, Cammy.
You've got to give credit to Rangers. They've got to come on to win a lot of stick, understandably. For all that Celtic were poor, Rangers were very, very good. Mm-hmm. Celtic were, you've not seen that from the players. The majority, I would only give the boy Vickers pass marks and how he played. The rest, I wouldn't give anything. And it was a really, really poor day. And on the day, Rangers, I thought Rangers were really, really good. Really good.
I think it's very rare for every Celtic player to be badly off form. You can maybe carry 1 or 2, but even like Callum McGregor was giving the ball away. Diogo was really quiet. Maeda was quiet. Kuhn was quiet. Hatate was poor. Looking at that Celtic team and thinking it was one of the probably poorest performances of the season, whereas Rangers won every single battle. But I think all it does is it just gives Clement that bit more of a stay execution. Because if they got beat, he'd have been gone. So I think it just prolongs his stay. I think at some point he will leave personally, but that's just my thoughts.
Well, the thing is, it starts with my favourite player in Celtic, and I'm sure he would do a job somewhere else. But you know, I always have been my bonnet about certain players, Andy. Scales. He's not at that level. The rot started with him and it went right through the whole team, and it's consistent. If any managers get in between their ears, go and shut him down quickly. He's murder. And he'll give you a ball if you're in the midfield, a broken leg ball, because he's murder at doing it. And terrible all the time, even looking at the other goals without dissecting his whole match, he was the start of the rot. And I'll tell you what, he'd have been hung out to dry if the rest of them weren't so bad.
Yeah.
People like Tati, as you mentioned, Graeme, you could go through that whole team. I've never seen so many bad passes with a Scottish Premiership team without just picking out Celtic. They were absolutely shocking. Now, having said that, with the Rangers, great result. That's 3 good games I've seen Rangers playing. First game against Hearts and the 2 Celtic matches. Does that make you a contender? Forget about your European League, because their games half took care of themselves. Yes, it done well in that. But when I talk about the Scottish Premiership, they've had 3 games, and that doesn't make a summer for you in relation to what the manager's got. And I believe he just went into the dressing room and threw a bit of paper down and said, going to give me the team, because the team picked itself.
Yeah.
They were not injured.
Yeah.
So the team he possibly would have played may have been the team that would have got wiped out. And the people that's got the opportunity grasped it. And that's his problem. He's been playing players that not giving them a real opportunity to go and prove that they could beat Celtic. Yeah. Now, he's got to have a hard job next week when he has to pick the team and some of these players are going to be fit for him. Mm-hmm. So I would say yes, but Graham's right. It's not good enough. It's only a stay in execution from my point of view. But this week, yes, manager of the week, without a question of doubt.
Yeah. Andy, last week you touched on a lack of leaders in Scottish football. And indeed, it's a clip, believe it or not, that's been on social media in terms of what you said last week about the lack of leaders in Scottish football, and mentioning obviously Celtic that lacking leaders. But a result like that yesterday just actually backs up what you said last week, that Celtic, irrespective of the fact that they've had a good season and been head and shoulders above anything else, they are still a club who lack leadership on the park. It's all one leading a good Celtic side or a good Rangers side or whatever else, but the real leaders show up when things aren't going well, when the shit's hit the fan, when things aren't going as well as they should be on the park. And Callum McGregor was found sadly lacking yesterday in that department.
Yeah.
Yeah, but as I say, Callum went over broken bones again, that the society's changed now. If Graeme, I could go back to Graham's time. I don't know how far you went back, Graeme, but just say we're talking to you in the 80s and the 90s with Hearts, they were all leaders. Mm-hmm. They were all men, but the game has changed now. The game has changed. McGregor is a leader in terms of how he plays, but he's not a type of, to go back to the Celtic days, a Roy Aitken. He's not a lot of Roy Aitken. He's not going to drive the game forward. He's not going to be in somebody's face or that. He's not that type of boy. No, but the game's very nice now. It's the element of being aggressive has been taken out of the game totally.
That's how you get away with captains being is lightweight, if we call it that, in a match. They don't get players with the scruff of the neck. No, you never hear them falling out with each other. How many games have you played, Andy, in your career? You're over 700. How many times you fought out with your teammates? Must be dozens.
As I say, when I played, Dennis, not just me, other boys of my era, I never had a mate in the world, not even my teammates, my pals.
Yeah. Well, I had that in the David.
That's because you never bought anybody a pint, Andy.
But at the end of the game, we were all mates. That's fine. But and you'll be the same, Graeme. Your team now. I would never have said that Shanks was a captain, and I don't mean that how he leads, how he plays, or when he was scoring goals, he was leading by example. But he's no somebody of, you go back to the 90s when you had your Levines, your Mackays, your Cahoons, these type of players. John Robertson's.
Graeme Hogg and Craig Levine fighting in a 6-yard box.
I Yeah. Up your Cody. You couldn't do that now. You do that, you're blacklisted.
But Graeme, how do you find Boy Shanklin being the club captain or the captain?
It's a hard one because I don't have a problem with it. When he was obviously scoring a load of goals last season, this season he's been really badly off form, and that's pretty much shown. Yeah. And I actually said on X yesterday that the last 2 games we've played, we've not missed him. And I'm a big Lawrence Shanklin fan. I love the guy.
Yeah, good player.
I think at times he has lacked that leadership. And I used the word a couple of days ago after we drew with Ross County that squad is too weak. It's too soft. It's too nice. Mm-hmm. I don't see anybody in that squad that's going to have somebody up by the throat in the dressing room going, "What was that today?" Mm-hmm. There's nobody that does that. They're all
they're all nice. See what you're saying? All clubs will be saying the same thing as you're actually saying. And that's me being genuine. The game is just, and I don't mean that, it's just the way society is. And also, if you go back to the academy system, where they come through the academies, there's no many people that are allowed to have a personality. So if you're somebody who is maybe aggressive in the training ground, or you're somebody who's got an opinion, you can still quell that as a coach, but sometimes you can be deemed as a problem, a problem person. Some people look at that. Well, he's got a problem. He's got an attitude. Why? Because he's got an opinion. No, there's nothing wrong with that. But as long as you're in control of that opinion as a manager, you can still quell that. You can quash that down, no problem. And it's the same as a player. But they don't want that now. They do not want that. And you know they're not even allowed that. That's a better thing. You'd actually be deemed by people running football news. Oh, he's no good. You don't want him. He's a bad apple.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Again, Andy, I get back to when you were at Broadwood, and the players you would hear shouting at one another, screaming at one another. You know what I mean? Now you don't hear that on the pitch. I mean, and bear in mind, there's even less people now at playing games than what there was back then. So you don't hear players interchanging. You don't hear players shouting at one another, or there's very little of that at all.
At times, Cammy, it was personal. How you spoke sometimes. No in a bad way. Sometimes it was just to get a reaction. But it was personal. But you don't get that now. And actually, when you actually, even as a coach, you maybe have a go at somebody, actually take it personal. Follow you.
We talked about that last week. That you can't take a player by the throat. You can't kick his ass. And we spoke about that again last week as well.
If you do that, you'll be going to the HR and you'll be sacked.
I know
that's what happened.
You'll be in the queue behind the doctor's list.
I know that I'm just a fan. I know that players have got jobs to do and stuff, but I really don't like, especially as a fan, when you see a player coming out and saying, "Oh, we're really hurting after that result," and you're like, "No, you're not. You're basically
Graeme, you'll maybe
up. You don't care like I do. You don't care. You're getting paid. I'm not."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I don't want you to be offended there with fans, right? And I understand that you come and watch the game. What I can't understand is now, Graeme, see if I go back and I'm sounding here again like an old fogey. What you get now is every club, the fans clapped the players off and clapped him on and clapped him off, or clapped him on and booed him off. Now, the players come out and clap the fans. And even at the end of the game, they go up to the stands and clap the fans. I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm not doing that for the simple reason is I appreciate the fan that comes. I appreciate that. But what happens is, when I'm not winning a lot of games, am I still going to go up and clap you? And that same individual is going to go, "Oh, brilliant, you've done brilliant today." I know what's going to happen because it gets personal. So what happens now is players now feel obliged and clap everybody. And then you're walking off the park, win, lose or draw, and you go over and clap, and I'm going, I wouldn't do that. And that's only me. Even now as a coach, my own manager does it after every game. I would never do that. I just got up and walk away.
I've heard a couple of times at Tynecastle, I would never do this, but I have heard a player coming on and getting booed when he comes on, something I would never ever do because I don't see the point in it.
Yeah. Oh, listen, Graeme, I don't mean it in a bad way. I remember playing at Dennis's old team, Stirling with St Johnstone, and I was getting booed at the warm-up.
I was in the stand that day. I was in the stand.
And by the way, that's changing. Booed at the warm-up. The old days Stirling, out it came, boo. I was at the warm-up.
I wound them up, Andy. Don't worry about it. That was 1924.
Again, Graeme, that's where the whole game. I just chuckle at times when I go and watch football, even if I'm not in the dugout and I go and maybe watch games and I go, I can't understand what was going on here.
Yeah, no,
I really don't.
Well,
and get back to the team that you support, Graeme. And I say that I don't know if the players actually understand how big a club Hearts are, or they can't handle the expectations. And I always say this: to play at big clubs, you don't need to be the best player, but you need to be able to handle the expectations. And that's sometimes when I look at Hearts, and you go back to Jeffrey's days. If you want to go back then in the 90s, he had a team that would run and work and fight and scratch. And then you go the opposite where you're talking about Romanoff. Good players. But a team that also run, fought and scratched. And then you look at your group the new, and at times I go, oof, they're a bit.
Yeah, I've always
fluffy.
said I can accept defeat, but I can't accept players not trying.
Yeah.
Can you accept supporters giving the manager verbal abuse? Because
no.
I experienced that when we used to go through. The press box is just right behind the dugouts, Graeme, you'll know that. But right at the side, and I was near the walkway, there was this guy, when Craig Levine was there, you might say, well, he deserved it, but no, I don't feel anybody deserved it. And Hearts weren't doing too great, and it was near the end of the game. And this supporter come down the stairs, and if you'd heard the abuse that he was giving Craig Levine, was absolutely appalling. And I thought, it's a football match, you know? Absolutely disgusting.
Can I ask you, Will, your own, what do you think of your own manager, the new manager that appointed?
Me?
What do you think? You're a Hearts fan. It's interesting because I don't think that they've had the bump or the kick that you would normally get with a manager to get in, really. Do you think fans will be patient with him?
Some of them won't be, because I've already heard a couple of podcasts about him gone. I don't agree. I've already said that he's a January winner. I mean, since he's come in, he's actually won more games than obviously Stephen Naismith did at the start of the season, but that wasn't hard because we didn't win a game. But there has been improvement. I think there has been better performances. There's been poor ones as well. I mean, yesterday was really good, should have won by more. But there are signs of something there. And I think when he gets a January window, I want to see what he does. But I've already heard a couple of Hearts podcasts saying, no, get him out, he's not good enough. Personally, for me, it's not near enough time. It's a 2 months job. It's not long enough for me. He needs a window of players, and then you can judge him. But I'm somebody right now that is backing him.
Good. I don't think where Hearts are, that's where they'll finish. I certainly don't. I think the teams that will be doing that area will be like a St Johnstone, County, possibly a Dundee. Possibly a Dundee. I think that's the team that will be doing there.
Yeah,
but Graeme, the guy that's actually made the suggestion you should get rid of him now, how do you get off the bottom of the league if you get rid of him? Because who could Hearts afford to bring in and restructure it to get points on the board? You might get an impact to a game, 2 games out of them, fresh impetus. But the bottom line is that would be suicide to get rid of the guy now. Yeah. What you've got to do is give him the opportunity in this window, especially with the backing of the Brighton side, is to see what you can do with him. And I've said all along, I think it maybe needs a spine, your team, certainly a forward. I think a forward would help big time. So I think it's a bit like the Motherwell scenario. You know, we were speaking on here a month ago, and people were actually wanting Motherwell. They're wanting Stuart out the door, right? And he was sitting 4th in the league. And we brought up the point, what do supporters really want? And that's the problem we've got. They just don't, sometimes they just rattle on and they're not really looking into it, of what the club can afford, what the expectations are, and what the outcome is going to be. Hearts, as Andy's rightly said, will not finish in that bottom 4. There's no question of doubt about it. It's far too good, even if they continue playing roughly in the vein they're in. I would imagine they'll probably finish up the way they're going now. If he doesn't get much change out of the January window, he'll probably end up with 7th or 8th. Maybe no make a cut for the top 6.
Do you think you'll lose Shankland during the January window, Graeme?
I don't think we'll lose him in January. but I think he'll go in the summer. Neil Critch just said out for the next few weeks. A lot of folk have 2 and 2 together and got 5 and thinking he's definitely going. I don't think he is. I think he'll be gone in the summer.
If he's not going in January, he'll definitely go in the summer. 100%.
Yeah. Anyway, do we want to look at the fixtures?
Let's rattle through the fixtures quickly, Dennis.
Right, okay. Fixtures for Sunday, the 5th of January is Hibs have Rangers, Motherwell Aberdeen, Celtic St Mirren, Dundee United Hearts, Kilmarnock Ross County, and St Johnstone Dundee. Then we can look at, before we're back on, we have Wednesday the 8th, Celtic have Dundee United, Kilmarnock and Motherwell, and on Thursday we have Dundee have Rangers. And the point I was making last week is, and then you just go to Saturday, there's a fixture list. There's 5 games to be played in the month of January. So it's a massive amount of points for any club. You could be sitting down where Hearts are just now, and you get, that swing. You could end up just be the situation of these games coming up. You could end up in that top half of the league. You could be sitting where Motherwell is and find that you're away down 11th spot. So I'll tell you what, it's certainly looking attractive with congestion that we've got for these fixtures. Just pointing out though that the times of these games are Sunday's 12 o'clock with Hibs and Rangers, 2:30 for the Motherwell Aberdeen, and the rest on the Saturday is 3 o'clock. 7:45 on the Wednesday for the Celtic game, and the same with Kilmarnock game. So that takes us into that. I don't know what ones are jumping out for you in that one, but there's certainly tons of matches. The Dundee United game, do you think you'll get something out of that, Graeme?
I think it's tough because United are doing very well, sitting third in the league. They're unbeaten at home since October. Difficult game, but I'm more positive after yesterday. Good performance. We signed a couple of players, so hopefully we'll get something out of the game. But the thing we've not had yet is a run. We've not had a run of wins. We win 1 and then lose the next 3. We need to go on a run of wins. If we do that, we'll get ourselves up the league.
If you look at Hibs, Graeme, if they'd have won yesterday, not drawn, they would have been into the top 5, I think. I think they went into fifth place. And 4 or 5 weeks ago, they were shouting for his head, Boy Grace head. Now he's won. He's no lost in 5. He won 4 in the bounce. And then
you get manager of the month, Andy.
Yeah, well, did he? Brilliant. Brilliant.
So it just shows you how much a change. That guy was 1 week, if you're lucky, away from being sacked. And that's back to the point we mentioned about your own manager, Graeme. You can have that knee-jerk reaction and find out what happens. The guy gets out the door and you're left with nothing to climb up the league. Whereas
I think you need to
persevered. Yeah. I don't know how well he's sorted out that defence, but he's obviously done something right that's made it worthwhile. Anyway, going into the Championship, Saturday's games is Ayr United, Raith Rovers, your own team, Andy, Morton against Hamilton, Partick Thistle at Dunfermline, and Queen's Park have Livingston. Andy, your own game, Morton against Hamilton, you thinking it's off tomorrow?
Oh, I would think so, unless there's a dramatic change in the weather. I would think so.
I think all these games should come with a caveat, weather dependent.
We played on Tuesday, obviously, against Partick Thistle, and it was a horrendous day with the wind and the rain.
You're right.
Pitch was ended up very heavy, and obviously the frost is coming just now.
But there's 2 you would fancy on that division, if anything, would be the Ayr United would be near the coast and Morton be near the water as well. Partick Thistle, I'd make an assumption that was off right away, and Queen's Park. And you mentioned earlier the game tonight's off, isn't it?
Yeah, Queen's Park
against Falkirk.
Yeah, that's off tonight, but Queen's Park will be okay. That's on at Hampden. That would undersoil.
Of course, you've got the undersoil.
And whether or not Partick Thistle use your undersoil, they don't have to, but they might put it on because you've got a better crowd on Saturday. Plus, you've got the hospitality, which is all money.
Sure. So there's a good chance. Yeah. Okay. League positions, Falkirk still sitting up there, 42 points, Livingston 36. Livingston slipped a wee bit. We haven't lost the last 2 games. It doesn't help the cause, and I'll tell you what, Falkirk must be loving it, especially having drawn the last game. So it's still tight up there. Ayr United sitting 1 point below Livingston, 35 points, and Partick Thistle sitting at 32. Andy, your own team, 23. You've had no bad half dozen games. I know you've had 3 draws in that, but the bottom line is, can you get up into that 4th spot, do you think?
No. Yeah, I think we've went 7 undefeated, Dennis. So the manager himself, he's done really, really well. I keep saying that to him.
Yeah.
No my friend, no my mate, but just the job and the circumstances and the resources that he works with is incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. And for us to go and even beat Thistle, a team that are expected to be challenging for the league, and we beat them 2-1, which is an excellent result.
Yeah.
And the week before that, we drew with Ayr United, doing it Ayr United. So we did okay. Right. There's a realism within the manager, myself, that we know where we are and where we should be. And as I say, if you finish out a side, and that sounds negative, but between 9th and 10th, out of there, anything else is a bonus. But since he's come into the club, he's finished 7th in half a season, and then he's 2 full seasons, he's finished 5th. And it's remarkable. So we're punching miles above where we should be.
Yeah, doing well, Andy. Doing well in the position he's in. So again, a few games under your belt, another couple of 6 points, and it gets you up challenging.
Yeah. But you just want to keep out the road, because Duthie are going to be getting a new manager sooner rather than later. No. I'm sure they'll pick up. Airdrie at the moment, they're a wee bit isolated, but who knows, if they get a bit of consistency and get their players back for injury, which they've lost a few, they might pick up.
Yeah. Okay. Into League One.
They'll do enough. Yeah.
Into League One, fixtures for Saturday are Arbroath, Alloa, Inverness, Cally Thistle against Dumbarton, Montrose, Kelty Hearts, Queen of the South, Cove Rangers, and Stenhousemuir against Annan. Top of that league is Arbroath, who you would assume were running away with it, but they're not. Stenhousemuir are only 4 points behind them. 34 points Arbroath, 30 points Stenhousemuir. Stenhousemuir are going great guns now.
Done really well, but your biggest game in that league tomorrow, Inverness vs Dumbarton. Biggest.
Oh, aye.
That's a 6-pointer, and Inverness to maybe kick on a wee bit.
Well, I'll tell you what, we no disrespect to Dumbarton. I think it is what it is. I know they're only 3 points behind Inverness, but I think Inverness, with the way things have gone, big time. If they get 3 points, they could end up getting out of the hole they're in.
Dennis, I believe they'll not finish bottom or second bottom. No, I think they'll get out of it. I do. I believe that.
Aye. Well, it'll be interesting to see. A good game to actually look at the result. The other one is Queen of the South and Cove. I just keep wondering what's happening with Cove. 1 minute they're up, the next they're down. I know they've won the last 2 games, but you just look at it and say to yourself, is there enough consistency there for them to challenge the Kelty and the Stenhousemuir and Arbroath? Don't know. The game tomorrow against Queen of the South will decide it.
Yeah.
League 2, and when we get in there, we're into Cammie's zone. Clyde have got Stirling Albion, East Fife Forfar, Edinburgh City, Bonnyrigg Rose, Elgin have Spartans, and Peterhead have Stranraer. There's also a game on the Wednesday, which is Edinburgh City against East Fife, with an 8 o'clock kickoff. Cammie, your own side, draw 1. You've picked up no bad under the new manager. Would you agree in that in the last half a dozen games? I know you've lost 2.
Performances have been much better, and it's been two bad away defeats that they've had. Obviously, the Spartans game, which we've discussed to death, and obviously the Elgin City game. We're down to Stranraer, and in all honesty, they were the only side in the first half. Stranraer were dreadful first half last week. Clyde played particularly well without creating much. It was kind of a scrappy game. Jordan Allen blazed over the bar, and then a few minutes later, similar chance where he was put through, and this time he lobbed the keeper. Clyde went 1-0 up, and then they conceded a kind of penalty maybe midway through the second half, which saw Robson get sent off as well, for the last man denying a goal scoring opportunity and whatever else, and one each was probably on the balance of play in the second half a fair result, but I think that stopped the row of away defeats. But the problem they have is they don't have a squad of players. They're really, really struggling to put 11 men on the park. They had 3 subs last week, one of which wasn't fit, and one of which was the sub goalkeeper. There was even a talk at one point in time, I believe, of actually the sub goalkeeper starting up front. That's how bad off they are for players. And I know, Graeme, you were talking about 45-year-olds. You could probably play better than some of the Hearts players. You could almost get a game for Clyde just now, mate. That's so if you're looking for someone to do on a Saturday, it's tomorrow with Hearts not having a game. you maybe get a wee shout.
Do you watch any of the lower division, Graeme?
Remember Man City under Stuart Pearce when he threw David James up front?
Yeah. Vaguely, as I say, I think there was I thought that we almost had to do that yesterday. Last week. So if Clyde can get a few players back, and this is the Glasgow Cup that's done this. When Clyde had games against Rangers and Celtic reserves or under 21s, they suffered several injuries. To key players, and it really has left them short. The trialists last week at centre half. Because their other 3 centre halves are all injured, and they're just struggling for players, and that's been a problem.
And it's not a good thing.
I think, in all honesty, if the game's called off tomorrow, it'll actually probably serve Clyde a wee bit better in terms it'll give them another week to try and get some players back. I know there's talk about them bringing in a few players, but they need to obviously ship guys out first of all. Get rid of some of the wages, some of the astronomical wages that they're paying to players who aren't delivering.
Yeah, Graeme, do you get a chance to watch any of the lower divisions?
No, to be honest.
Or it's watching Hearts bad enough.
I might watch it in the lower league if we're going to get our act together. But I know they finally do have a lower league football channel coming on, highlights channel, which I've been saying for ages, but I want to see that. So that's a good thing.
No, yeah. Andy, do you go to many games with the Morton matches now? I know you used to try and take in a load of games.
I mean, if I can go, I'll go to League 2, League 1. No, I'll watch anything.
I know that's been the norm in the past.
That doesn't bother me. If I get a chance to go, like if your game's off tomorrow, I'll go somewhere.
You'll go somewhere.
Right? I'll go and get a game tomorrow. I don't mind that for that aspect.
No bother.
Okay, I think you'll struggle to get one, Andy, anywhere tomorrow.
Yeah.
Well, certainly looking outside my back window, I would certainly say there'll be nothing coming along. That's for sure. Nothing.
No, we're in the same boat, Andy. I think. Anyway, I think that sort of takes us to the end. I was going to touch on about sports science, but I think we'll leave that for another week when Andy's back on, because it's relevant to what we've had conversations about in the past when you were at Kilmarnock about players. That I've done enough for my week to tell you that, sports scientist. So we'll pick that one up later on.
That word spike. Spike.
Right.
Wow.
Anyway, guys, it's been we knew it was going to be a long one tonight, as I say, we had a couple of topics to discuss at the start of the show, so thanks to both of you thanks to all 3 of you for listening, and putting up with what's become my bugbear over the last 3 weeks, about the Spartans Clyde thing, so thanks for sticking with us on that one.
The boy will be fit by the time you get to the bottom of this.
I know, exactly, I know. That's the season will be finished and we'll be who? But as I say, it's been one of these things. Go ahead, guys, like, subscribe, comment, share, tell your pals all about the Friday Night Football Pitch. I know Graeme does a great job of trying to push the show. Andy and Dennis, you're probably too old for social media, so you're not going to do that. But hey, go ahead, like, subscribe, as I say. Hey, you better watch Graeme's cat, I'll eat it.
Nah, she's too stupid to do that.
Hey,
she's not bright enough to do
that. But that's another 20 minutes. It's been the longest show that we've done. So thanks very much. Go ahead, like, subscribe, as I say. It's all happening on the pitch. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.